Officially call this meeting to order at 10:05 a.m. Welcome. I know that we probably have a couple of new faces, so it's great to see everybody, new and old. Hopefully we can make a big difference this year. It's an off year for elections, but we still have a lot of work to do. So looking forward to working with you. Before we get started, just a little bit of Zoom curation. This is a Zoom meeting, which means that everyone is able to unmute and speak whenever you wish. A lot of people I see have your cameras on, which is awesome. It's good to see your friendly faces this morning. But remember, this is always optional. There is no pressure to have your camera on. So you can enable and disable your camera throughout the meeting as necessary. There's no need to have it on the whole time if you're not comfortable with that. And if you're not actively speaking, I would request that you please keep yourself muted unless you are actively speaking. This just helps prevent background noise that might distract from the meeting at hand. So thank you very much for that. For those of you maybe not familiar with Zoom, here are the controls on a Windows and or desktop computer. It should be similar for Mac as well. This is the mute unmute button. This is probably the most important button. If you'd like to turn your video on or off, that's this one. You can access the chat, which because I'm presenting, I will not be able to really pay attention to. So if you do have a question, please unmute yourself and address to me so that I can hear you, because while presenting, I can't really see the chat or your faces, unfortunately. And then reactions. I probably won't be able to see a lot of those as well, but if we ever do in the future need to do like a raise hand thing, this is where you can access that on a desktop computer. Mobile phone, if you're on a mobile phone, it's a little bit different. Again, mute, unmute, start or stop your video. The chat and reactions, so like raising your hand, is under the 3 dots. This is the same on both Android and on iPhone. And if you're only joining us over the phone, you can hit *6 to mute yourself and unmute yourself at will. Okay, that done. Thank you. Please stay muted during the meeting. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to start off our meeting with a native land acknowledgement. The state of Michigan occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabeg, Three Fires Confederacy, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi Native tribes. The Michigan Democratic Party recognizes historic Indigenous communities in Michigan and those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. We further recognize the ongoing relationship of dependence upon and respect for all living beings of earth, sky, and water. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. All right. So, determination of quorum. We need to have at least 15 members present, which I believe that we do. And we also need to have at least a majority of our counties represented. So we have 6 counties. As long as we have 3, we're good. So I'm Kalamazoo. I see Van Buren. I see some St. Joseph. I see Allegan, and I see some Berrien. Anybody from Cass? Well, that's probably quorum.
Kathleen McKee is on from Cass.
Excellent. Perfect. Then we've got an amazing quorum today. Thank you for being here, everyone. So with that, we can continue with business. All right, approval of agenda. So let me pull up the agenda. This was emailed out with our meeting notification. So here's the agenda. Are there any?
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add an agenda item if possible, please, under new business.
Sure.
Discussion of the proposed rule change to the MDP that would allow or invite caucus members to be a part of the executive committee. If we could add that just for a discussion item, I'd like to get people's response. As a member of State Central, that came to us, and we're going to vote on that at April 10th.
Okay, so Rick Catherman has made a motion. Is there a second to amend the agenda?
I'll support it.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, is there any discussion of that amendment? Okay, everyone in favor of amending the agenda to include this discussion in new business, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 Okay, any of those opposed, please unmute yourself and say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, agenda has been amended. Any further amendments?
Eleanor Melissa Clapper. I'm not sure if this is the time to talk about that since it's really not a thing yet, but it is out in the news. The proposed or the threat of the proposal for the petition initiative to lump all things together and then bypass the governor. So I don't know if this is, if we need to be talking about this yet, or if we need to wait until it's farther down the line, but.
That's the voting rights initiative
Yes,
in the
and-
legislature.
Yes, where they're talking about doing a petition drive, which would be if they received enough petitions, it would then kick it to the legislature. And the legislature would then have the power to vote on it. If they voted to approve the initiative, it then becomes veto proof and the governor can't veto it. Now, again, I realize that, you know, this is only a conversation right now and a threat from the Republicans, but I think it's a credible one. And so maybe this isn't the time to talk about it, but definitely we need to put it on our radar.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, yeah, my only detractor from discussing it at this meeting right now is I don't believe that we have enough information about that at the moment. We can
Probably
definitely,
Probably
yeah, we can
true.
definitely.
So I'll retake that back. So we just need to put it on our radar though, so that we're paying attention to it. So.
Absolutely. Can you send me an email after this meeting and I'll make sure that it's on the agenda for our next meeting?
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll know something more by then. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I will accept.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. This is Mike.
Thank you,
Second,
Mike.
Catherine.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded by Mike and by Rick to approve the agenda. All of those in favor of approving the agenda, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 All those opposed, please unmute yourself and say nay. Okay, the agenda has been approved. Huzzah. Okay. Approval of previous meeting minutes. So our previous meeting was the district convention. These were also sent around with the meeting invitation. Are there any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
I'll move to approve them as presented.
Second.
Okay. All right, it's been properly moved and seconded by Mark and Amy. Thank you. All of those in favor, well, we can just approve the minutes. I'm a chair, I can approve the minutes. I learned this in the Roberts Rules training. The minutes are approved. Okay. All right, now we have a very special guest. We have Bill Farmer with us, who will be doing a special presentation on Medicare for All. So I will stop sharing my screen. And let's make sure that Bill is able to speak.
Yeah, yes, I'm able to speak. A little nervous,
Excellent.
but I'm ready to go. Greetings, everybody, and thanks a lot for this opportunity to speak with everybody here. My presentation is just simply going to be verbal. It's so difficult to see myself like this reflected, but let's get to it. I'm Bill Farmer. I'm here to share some information on the Medicare for All Act of 2021 and really ask you to take the lead in building this movement. This presentation will take no longer than 10 minutes. I hope we have some time for question and answer. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and what I've been up to, speak to the Medicare for All Acts, including the most recent incarnation. And then finally, I have a big ask of you. What can we do together to move this legislation forward? Much work, much grassroots work has been accomplished, and there's much more to be done. About myself, I'm a lifelong member of the Democratic Party and retired union activist and a professional staff representative for Michigan AFSCME Council 25. I've negotiated hundreds of collective bargaining agreements throughout Michigan and within the 6th Congressional District. The overarching concern of all of those negotiations has been dominated by the issue of healthcare. Since retirement in 2015, I worked on behalf of the Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns of 2016 and 19 here in Michigan, Indiana, and Iowa. It was during this period of time I helped organize a Southwest Michigan chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America and helped form a 501c3 named Michigan for Single Payer Healthcare. Both groups have dedicated their organizing efforts in building the movement to establish healthcare as a human right by implementation of the Medicare for All Acts introduced since 2016. All are unpaid volunteers. Our organizing efforts locally led to the passage of a proclamation of support for the Medicare for All Act of 2019 by the Kalamazoo County Commission in July of 2020. Commissioners Moore and Quinn were instrumental in passing this proclamation. The Democratic County Commissioners were unified in their vote, and it was great working with them all. In coalition with others, we've been able to pass Medicare for All resolutions of support in 7 Michigan cities and municipalities and 50 nationwide. And these numbers continue to grow over time. We're beginning to strategize on how best to approach the Kalamazoo City Commission. And if you have any suggestions pursuant to that, please contact me. I've put my contact information in the chat. My experience as a chief negotiator in collective bargaining, which included Western Michigan University, the city of Kalamazoo, the county of Kalamazoo, and to a larger extent, the Michigan Department of Corrections. There's just one thing I have to say, that the current employer-based for-profit healthcare system is not sustainable. And it's an unfair burden on the backs of our cities, counties, townships, states, businesses, and families. The heartbreaking stories are too many to tell here, and the need is immediate. And this is why I'm committed to the Medicare for All Acts of 2021. The Medicare for All Act of 2019 took 2 years to acquire 118 House co-sponsors and 14 Senate co-sponsors. This legislation made it through 4 House committees. This represented a historical level of support for the Medicare of All legislation. It's really become a mainstream topic of discussion. The 2020 presidential exit polls conducted by Fox News, of all places, indicated nationally a 70% voter support for a government, quote unquote, government-run healthcare system. In addition to that, every Democratic House candidate who supported the Medicare for All Act of 2019 won their elections. So let's fast forward to March 17, 2021. Jayapal and Dingell introduced the Medicare for All Act of 2021. And just so everybody understands the important content of this law, the Medicare for All Act builds upon and expands Medicare to provide comprehensive benefits to every person in the United States. This includes primary care, vision, dental, prescription drugs, mental health, substance abuse, long-term services and supports, reproductive health care, and more. The Act also includes universal coverage of long-term care with no cost sharing for older Americans and individuals with disabilities, and prioritizes home and community-based care over institutional care. Additionally, patients have the freedom to choose doctors, hospitals, and other providers they wish to see without worrying about whether a provider is in network. Importantly, the legislation streamlines the healthcare system to negotiate drug prices and reduce exorbitant administrative waste. We no longer have to pay for premiums, deductibles, or co-pays, or any other out-of-pocket expenses. Now, the most recent bill has significant changes, some of which I'm going to mention here in brief. It increases the benefits. If future administrations come into office and they want to change the benefit level, they can only change it by enhancing current benefits or adding new benefits to it. It also expands hospice care. It allows mental health provider enhancements, extra benefits for those employees affected by the transition from our private provided healthcare to Medicare for all. And it creates a health equity office to solve racial inequalities, which have been made even more obvious by the recent effects of the pandemic. Now, within 1 week of this legislation's introduction, which was just last Wednesday, we have 114 Democratic House co-sponsors with 14 committee chairs and several key leadership members in support. One of the most impressive ones is Frank Pallone Jr., who's the chair of the powerful House Committee on Energy and Commerce. He just became a co-sponsor and has committed to have a hearing on the Medicare for All Act of 2021. Now, this is the big ask, and I hope we can expand on question and answers. What I'm asking and presenting here is I've written up a resolution of support for the Medicare for All Act. Eleanor has a copy of that. And I want to submit that for your consideration and passage. And lobby other congressional districts to do the same thing. And have, if we can pass this and have the county Democratic leadership sign on to it, it would be just fantastic as leverage to convince our Democratic congressional representatives who are not on board with this to come on board. And those reps include Debbie Stabenow, Gary Peters, Ms. Haley, and Slotkin. All the rest of the Democratic congressional representatives are on board already with this legislation. I hope also we might be able to create a standing committee on healthcare reform with the purpose of building a diverse, well-organized grassroots movement that can strategize, educate, agitate, organize, and implement tactics to win this crucial social justice issue, the passage of the Medicare for All Act of 2021 and any future incarnations. There's much that we can talk about that we can do together. That's what I'm hoping we can have a discussion of here and act upon. I've also developed a petition that addresses, that's targeted to our congressional delegation here, that can be, it's online. We can do door-to-door canvassing, event canvassing, all of which we did to secure the Kalamazoo County Commissioner's support for this effort. So with that, I'll end my presentation and hopefully open it up for some question and answers.
This is Andrew George. Is there any chance that we can get a reading of that resolution?
I have a copy of it. I am more than happy to read it. I was hoping to send it by email to our entire membership so that we could consider it at our next meeting to be approved or adopted.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Fair.
and I can also show it on the screen. Any other questions for Mr. Farmer?
Mr. Farmer, I have a question. Do you have a link to the actual legislation that's being considered, or a summary of that legislation that maybe you could put in the chat? I mean, we can all probably look it up, but I just wondered if you maybe had a link you could share.
I can provide a link. I didn't prepare such for this meeting. I did provide a number of links that provide brief explainers of the legislation. And also within those are links to the actual language of the legislation, and also the co-sponsors in the whole ball of wax. But I can certainly provide that for, if we can't do that now, for a future communication, which I hope we can do this as soon as possible.
Madam Chair, is that what you just posted there?
Yes, the first link is the actual text of the resolution or the act from the House. The second is a summary page by Pramila J. Paul herself with a list of basically bullet points of what it would do, and also co-sponsoring organizations, a lot of supporting information from that. So those two links are what those are.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Eleanor.
I'll make sure that they get sent to Nathan so that they can also be included in the minutes.
Will do.
Kathy Lapointe.
Go ahead,
Hi.
Kathy.
Hi. Thank you for your work, Bill. It's wonderful. I'm just curious why Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters don't support this or haven't signed on yet as yet.
That is an excellent question. All I can relate are two things. Debbie, a year or so ago, introduced her approach to healthcare reform, which had to do with minor, by expanding Medicare coverage to certain groups, age groups. And that's what she's rested her case on. And the issue with that is that it still allows private insurance companies to exist. And the profits and the structural waste that the private sector represents, according to the various studies, including the Congressional Budget Office, represents $650 billion. That money through Medicare for All Act would be poured into providing benefits, universal benefits for everybody. And that's key. That's why a public option will not accomplish what Medicare for All accomplishes, and that's very important. Peters has actually been hostile to us, and I don't know why. We presented a case to him, and this was at least 2 years ago. And it didn't turn out well, even though there were 200 people there at this meeting. And we asked the people there, do you support a Medicare for all? And 80% of them raised their hands. So some work needs to be done. Maybe he doesn't fully understand it. I'm not sure. But part of our plan, and this is what I'm asking you also, this group here, is we need to organize meetings with them or their staff to impress them the importance of passing this legislation. That's one of the strategic things that we're planning on doing right now statewide. So I hope that answers your question, and that's all the information I currently have available.
Great, thank you.
If I could ask one more thing, this is Andrew George. Probably the obvious question, Bill. Do you think that this is a matter of convincing Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow, or is this a matter of campaign finance reform? If you get my drift.
Yeah, I'm going to interpret that, and please correct me if I'm wrong. There are powerful lobbyists that fund campaigns to people that we hold near and dear. And that may have an influence if that's where you're heading in that direction. And we just need to organize ourselves. That's all there is to it. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's just a matter of convincing and not the power of money talking here. But we're going to move forward on this regardless of what the influence is, because this legislation is just too important. 40,000 people die every year for lack of health care. what more obvious thing, fact, event do we need to produce to move this legislation forward and provide universal health care to everybody, regardless of their ability to pay? It's we're kind of in a social war here, and we have to organize ourselves to do that. So Andrew, it's good seeing you and talking with you. It's been a while. I hope that answers your question.
It does, of course, Bill. Thank you.
You bet.
Madam Chair, Mark Ludwig here from Allegan County.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think the previous point is right on. I think actually this is all about money. And one of the things I have really kind of committed to this year is going out and trying to find some new money and to essentially provide a reasonable and convincing counteroffer to our political friends to say, yes, we will find the money to support you if we got to get rid of these disgusting insurance companies. As vice chair of the Rural Caucus, we're talking about trying to raise and spend at least $2 million this cycle. I don't think there's any reason we shouldn't expect all of our CDs to also form PACs and roll up a crap car of money and then pass it out, because that's frankly, that's a big reason why we're still getting killed out here in these kind of not Eastern Michigan corners of the state. Because we are not spending enough money to put respectable campaigns up there that reach enough people, and we are not throwing around enough money to influence our political actors once they do find themselves with a seat in office. I know that sounds venal and awful and mercenary, and I don't like it either, but I think that's where politics is at right now.
Mark, if I may respond, it's not mercenary, it's necessary. You're speaking to organizing the grassroots, especially in our rural and urban areas equally. And I hope, Mark, that we can do a collaboration and take the message and importance of Medicare for all into the countryside, into the rural areas. Townships are struggling too with healthcare costs. Let's approach them and get a resolution of support from area townships. It all helps. That's why the petition, that's why this resolution that you will consider next month, they're all very important. Now, I personally believe that we're going to have to create events which draw attention to this issue, along with other important issues like the PRO Act and the Green New Deal and voters' rights. It's all a part of the same conundrum that we're facing. And money represents power right now. But we have the power. We just have to organize ourselves.
Kathleen McKee here. I have to acknowledge that I am very ambivalent about Medicare for all. Lifelong Democrat, liberal. I think that we have serious problems with our medical provision system, period. And I guess I'm afraid that we're just going to have a big a medical system that is mediocre. We have a mediocre medical system now because the hospitals, the big hospitals, have purchased all these small medical groups, and it's one big industry now that's providing us with really not very good medical care. So if we fund that current system, which is being created by mega hospitals buying everybody out, I don't want to fund a system that in fact is so mediocre it doesn't improve. You can go see your doctor, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get any kind of medical treatment that's worthwhile. 10 minutes in the office and you're out the door because that's what the institution says that doctor can provide. Along with a Medicare for all, if I knew that we somehow could get around to really addressing what's being provided in our current medical system to Americans, I would feel so much better about it. I'm concerned about it being even more mediocre if it's being paid for by the government and not being, it just has to be really looked at in terms of how can we get quality medical care for all. If we can, I'm 100% for it, but that's my problem.
Kathleen, may I respond?
Yes.
Bill, may I respond to Kathleen?
Absolutely.
Something that so I have a pulmonologist that I see on a somewhat regular basis. And he and I had a 45-minute appointment recently where most of that was just sort of updating and talking. And what he told me was about his experience with another patient that he was treating. And because of the patient's insurance, he had to go through a ton of hoops in order to get this patient the care that he needed. The patient, according to the pulmonologist, needed a CAT scan, and that would have solved all of their problem because the pulmonologist knew pretty much what was wrong and wanted to prescribe a CT scan for this patient. But the insurance wouldn't pay for the CT scan until they had done an X-ray. And because of the outcome of that X-ray, then they would have to go see an ENT doctor, an ear, nose, and throat doctor, in order to get further diagnosis to then approve the CAT scan. Now think about the bill that patient is now going to be stuck with because the insurance company refused to let the doctor prescribe what they wanted to prescribe. And in addition, I can provide a personal story. I have been prescribed a medication that is life-saving. Like if I don't have it, I could potentially die. My doctor prescribed it because it's the best choice for me right now, but it is very expensive. And my insurance company refused to fill that prescription for 3 months while we went through the appeal hoops to get it approved. And only then did they approve it for a year. So in August, I have to go through all that again. So I would be extremely happy to get rid of private insurance and
Absolutely.
let doctors prescribe for their patients.
But Medicare does the same thing. You know, at this point in time, unless we really take a look at and commit ourselves as a nation to providing medical care and not using hoops, what you have to do if you're on Medicare is exactly the same kinds of things. Now, it's just the bottom line is let's get better, high quality medical treatment available to everybody. And if you live on a reservation in Arizona, you don't have to go 500 miles to get medical treatment, that kind of thing. It's a system that really works. And this is just, since I mentioned Indians, the Indian Health Service system that tribes have, our local tribe here in Dowagiac had all their members vaccinated within 3 months of the time that it was available for Indian Health Services to have a vaccine. And they'll also vaccinate anybody from the surrounding communities now because they have so much stock. So the plan is that the tribal health services handles a community. And because they're invested in the community, then they also invest in the quality of healthcare. So just putting that out there.
May I quickly respond, or are we running out of time?
I would say this is probably the last
Okay.
response. Thank you.
Sure. Does that mean I can speak or I'm done?
Oh, you may speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That discussion, Eleanor, your example can be multiplied tens of thousands of times throughout the country. And Kathleen, your concern and apprehension is the core question that we need to answer here. We need to answer it here with you and nationally, because there are many people in your position. But I beg you to read the legislation, because everything that you said should happen in healthcare is contained in the Medicare for All Act of 2021. The reason why it's called Medicare for All is because millions of people are familiar with Medicare and don't want to surrender it, but it can have huge improvements to it. And this legislation does that. So just think about that. What you said is resolved in this legislation, and open yourself to accept that, and then read the legislation and the explainers to it. That'll alleviate many of your apprehensions, and I'm always available to answer any questions too, and others too. Our work is in coalition with National Physicians for a National Health Plan, National Nurses United, Public Citizen, Healthcare Now. We're not alone in this at all. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to working with you all in some fashion to move this forward.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for the great discussion and questions. That's very appreciated. And Bill's absolutely right. We all have to work together to answer these questions. It's not a miracle pill. It's not going to be solved overnight. So if you are interested though, however, I've posted a couple of links in the chat. The first one again is the bill itself. The second is Pramila J. Paul's sort of explainer about it. The third is the resolution that Bill has presented, which I plan on sending out to the membership for adoption at our next meeting. So that gives you time to review it. And we can discuss that at our next meeting. And I'm now posting the one-pager summary that he provided for me. And please, if you are interested in this, let me know and we can talk about it in the future. Okay, so let's go back to our meeting. Thank you again, Bill, for your time and everyone else for participating. Okay. Can you see my screen? Awesome. Okay, so we are back to elected official reports. Are there any elected officials present? I know Mark Miller is here.
I have no report.
Okay. Officer reports, so report of the chair. I don't really have anything to report. I attended, so the reason that we postponed this meeting to this week is because of the MDP 2021 Leadership Summit. That was last weekend. It was extremely informative. They provided a lot of good information, a lot of really good trainings. If you're interested in any of the follow-up information that they provided, I did email the slides that Haley provided to us, but they didn't send out recordings and I haven't heard back from her on that. But if you're interested in any of that, I emailed that to our executive committee, but if you as a member are interested in any of that information, let me know. I'll be happy to share it. I'm also attending online trainings that's called Train the Trainer. It's from the DNC Best Practices Institute. So they're talking about best practices for organizing volunteers, campaign work, stuff like that. It's a several-week course. It goes into April, and they're about 45-minute presentations on a bi-weekly basis. So those have been really interesting. It's unfortunately too late to sign up in the middle of the trainings, but they have trainings at sort of on an ad hoc basis on a regular basis. And if you're interested in that, just Google for DNC Best Practices Institute, and you can see all the available trainings that they have coming up. And they're available for anyone, from leadership positions to just organizers on the ground. Anyone can participate in those, and I would highly suggest it if you're interested. Okay, that's really it from me. Is our treasurer present to give a report?
Eleanor?
I see you, Ken. Hello.
Oh, you can see me? Okay. I don't have much to report. Me and Paul's schedules are not aligning, so we could get a transfer over, but we're going to get that taken care of.
It's early days, so no worries there. Thank you. Are there any additional reports from any of the other officers? Mark?
Excuse me, I need to find what I need to refer to. I wanted to make a report to this committee about redistricting and the census. And it's a little complicated. So if anyone wants to see the dates and so forth, I'd be happy to share, but I'll just make it a normal report for right now. So the US Census 2020 data. That is the actual counts for each census block that the legislative maps are based on. It was originally supposed to be released on April 1st, so that's just a few days from now. Unfortunately, the Trump appointees running the census screwed this up, like they screwed up the US Postal Service and the EPA and countless other agencies. And that has been delayed twice and currently projected to be released no sooner than September the 30th. I really get scared when I see those words, no sooner than. Yikes. The Michigan Constitution requires the new legislative district maps are adopted by November 1st, the year after the census. That means this year. And there's also a required 45-day public comment period, which means the maps need to be released by September 17th. Given that the data the maps are based on will be available later than the maps have to be finished, the options are: one, a crash program to develop a time machine, and two, if that's not feasible, a delay in when the maps have to be finalized. So the Michigan Citizens Redistricting Commission has formally asked the Michigan Supreme Court to approve a delay of nearly 2 months to finish the maps. And they're also asking for an extra 25 days for candidates to file to run for office. If approved, that would mean that January 25th is the deadline to adopt the maps, and the filing deadline would move from April 19th to May 14th. That would mean that if all this is approved, if our congressional candidate or candidates, whoever they are, would have about 109 days to collect and submit a minimum of 1,000 nominating petition signatures. Now, he or she or whoever they are could start sooner, but you know, the petitions, the headers have to be filled out before signatures are collected. And it's at least possible that the 6th district could end up being on the other side of the state. That is maybe unlikely, but it has happened before that the redistricting rearranges the whole district numbering system. So, typically in past cycles, we could take a year or more to collect signatures, but that is not going to be true this time, even under the best case scenario. But wait, there's more. Senate Bill 130.
Yes, thank you.
In section 52 would move our primary election from August to June. So if that bill were passed and signed into law and made to take effect for next year, the filing deadline would be May 14th and the primary on June 8th. Again, making that time machine real handy. Obviously, that is impossible. And I think even our current reality challenged legislative majority has to see that. But my main point here in bringing this point up now is that we're going to have a large task of getting enough signatures when the time comes that we can collect them. We need to have a plan ready to help to support our candidate to get that done. And it's going to be a task that's on a completely different timeline than it has been historically. That's about the most we can say right now about this. I would point out to all counties, I'm sure you've already been thinking about county redistricting as well. And there are technical aspects to that. If you're a county chair, you will be on that county redistricting commission. And I've done some work in that before, and I'm available to have some conversations about that as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other reports from any of our other officers?
I don't have a report, but I have a question to ask Mark Miller, please. Melissa Clapper.
Go ahead.
Mark, I'm glad you brought up the whole thing of that legislation on moving the primary. And I know at one time, the Democratic Party for Michigan really was looking at that. So again, you kind of speak towards the conundrum that we might have, because we've always said that that would be so much more helpful. So have you heard anything from MDP, or, right now, as you've laid it out just very well, that really we just have a yikes situation going on here? So
The redistricting, of course, in the census is only once every 10 years, and that adds a constraint to the schedule in the front. Ideally, it would be nice to have the primary earlier, so you had more of a campaign season following it, which is why the MDP has supported that in the past. But, we just have, people think if they're not involved in it, that, oh, you ought to be able to file and have an election the next month. Well, it's not that way. There's all kinds of things that have to happen. And the constraint is extremely tight, and yeah, this has not been well thought through by the folks offering this bill, I'm afraid. So I have not been in communication with MDP about what our position is on this, but there are a lot of constraints, and I guess some of us could be in contact and see what our position is on it.
well, I know that Erica Parisman is, they're keeping track of the many, many pieces of legislation that are out there, but I haven't specifically asked her about that one. But when I read the legislation, it was understood that it would impact both parties. So it's not an either or. It would be, if it passed, it would be both, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you both. Any other questions for Mark, or any other reports from our officers before we proceed? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and proceed to the report of counties. I do not see Jill, but Austin, you're here from Allegan. Would you like to provide a report?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, we've got a few things going on. We're raising money for our new fair and event booths. That's over on our Facebook page. We're just kind of hitting the ground running, hoping to do in-person meetings later this summer into the fall. We're focusing on county commission candidates right now. We were talking about redistricting. We're worried that they'll proceed without the proper data. So we're watching the process closely. Jill is on that committee. Is Jill on? Okay, no. Okay, she is on vacation right now from work and things, so I didn't expect her on the call. But things are going well in Allegan County. Helen Goings is our third vice chair, and she is taking over as operations manager for our party. If Helen is on, Helen, would you like to share anything for Allegan?
I see Helen, but if you're speaking, you are muted.
There we go. Finally got unmuted. Not a lot to say. We are looking at our 7 county commission seats as being the goal for this election cycle. Of course, the state races also. And then we're looking at what's going to happen with Mary Whiteford's seat, and kind of not really knowing what district you're going to be in, what's going to happen. The signs are, I know Jill's not on, so I'll speak to that. I know she's waiting for all the counties to get their orders in, so please do that so we can get them in. The more we have, the cheaper the price. So it's beneficial for you to order. And I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Helen reminded me of something on Mary Whiteford's note. The Michigan Republican Party did a press conference in Holland defending the bistro owner who defied COVID regulations. Allegan County Democratic Party put out a statement, a press release, they got some pretty good traction. It's on our Facebook page. Channel 13 picked it up. So if you get a chance, head over to our Facebook page and take a look at that. It's important to fight back on this because obviously the Republicans are out there defending someone who broke food safety laws. You know, Democrats have to stand up for these institutions like the health department and the food safety stuff. It's important, no matter your party, that you have a safe place to eat. And it's crazy that they're out there doing a maskless press conference for someone who broke the law. So check out our Facebook page for that statement.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you. And I agree, that is crazy that Republicans are advocating from a political platform to break health safety laws, food safety laws. That's insane. All right, Berrien County, Amy, I see you.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, we just had our monthly meeting last Thursday. It was great, well attended. We, of course, have created a redistricting commission and are working, meeting regularly to talk through those difficult issues, talk strategy, talk options, talk possibilities. Thank you to Mark for his help with that. We are also talking a lot about voter protection, of course, right? I think I mentioned last time that we have created a committee to focus on that. Melissa and Audrey are leading that up, and that's going to be an ongoing part of our discussions from here on out. We are planning to open the office, limited hours starting in April. I don't know if other offices are planning to do that, but we do think it's important. We're kind of using the signs that we're ordering from Jill as a way to start getting people to think about, re-engaging in the process. It's really important that we get people re-engaged, that we don't let too much time go by to get them back in the swing of volunteering, right? Of course, candidate recruitment and development is ongoing. We do have 2 elections coming up this year, City of St. Joe and City of Benton Harbor. So we are, and we have some interesting opportunities in St. Joseph in particular. 2 people have said the 2 main Republicans have said they're not going to rerun. So we have 3 open seats. And if we can get good strong Dem candidates in those seats, we will completely have the city commission, which has a huge impact on our county, and it could have a huge impact on our district, quite frankly, I think. Lots of really cool fundraising things in the works. Chokwe Pitchford is leading that up, doing an amazing job. Precinct delegate program, getting back, getting that traction back. And yeah, so things are going well. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Amy before we proceed? Okay, cool. So Cass County, Naomi is not here, but she sent me a report, but is there anyone else to provide a report for Cass before I read her report?
Yes, I can do that. I don't know what's included in the report, but we also are opening our offices again in April. Naomi is on the redistricting board, would be, since she's the chair. Only Democrat on our redistricting board, which makes it a little interesting. One of the talking heads of the Republican Party in Cass County is the prosecutor, and of course he's on the redistricting committee too. So that should be interesting. Victor Fitz is a challenge, to say the least. The headlines in the local newspaper last night were Cass County citizens demand, what's it called? It's called a Second Amendment. It's a location where you're safe. What do they call it? The Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment zone?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought, no, which one of those people in Cass County demanded that, But a group must have gone to the, and I think, hasn't Berrien County already done that? I'm not sure, but I think they've already Their county commission already has declared them a
They
safety zone.
they did it in Allegan as well.
Did
A
they?
year or two ago, yeah.
So is it a sanctuary free from the Second Amendment? So there's like no
No.
guns, or is it every gun?
It's a sanctuary against gun regulations, basically.
Oh,
Isn't that
Yes.
special?
okay. Full disclosure, I'm a gun owner and I think that that's stupid.
Well, yeah, I think most gun owners, responsible gun owners, would think that was stupid. But it's, I think that the reason I mention it is that it kind of speaks for where we're at in general. The Republicans are very much in control of the county government. And no matter how crazy it is, just like with the state legislature at the moment, it seems to be, they don't care how crazy they get. And it's a challenge. I'm not sure that we're not going to try to take some kind of movement campaign about the whole issue. We're not going to be successful, but at least we can make a statement that it's not the direction we should be looking at. We should be looking at public safety. So it's going to be interesting for us. We're really working hard at finding candidates. We want every slot filled, and with a Democrat, even if they've never had any experience in elections. And so that's our big goal.
Excellent. Any questions for Kathleen before we continue? I don't see any. The only additional thing is you covered everything that Naomi sent me. So
okay. Cool.
Thank you so much. Kalamazoo County. I do not see Mariah, but is anyone here to provide a report for Kalamazoo? Shauna, do you have anything to report?
I'm Berrien County.
Oh, sorry. I think we're Kalamazoo. I'm so sorry.
I did live in Kalamazoo for 9 years, but now I'm Berrien County.
Okay. I apologize for the mistake. Okay, I don't see a report from Kalamazoo then. I'll catch up with Mariah and try and get a report for the wrap-up email that I'm going to send. All right, St. Joseph. Andrew, I know you're here.
I'm here. We do not have any crazy Republicans passing any Second Amendment sanctuaries here in St. Joseph County. Surprisingly, I should knock on wood. So update for St. Joseph County. I know Kathy Greaves, at least was on the call earlier, along with Luis Perez. They have been, both them and Ben Greaves and Siobhan Leonard, have been very active in coming up with our action plan, which is based off of St. Clair County's action plan. And what this is requiring is for us to basically reform our committees within the party. And along with that, we have to update our bylaws because our committees are in our bylaws. So we've been working really hard at updating that. We also are looking at opening up our office again. At our last meeting this month, we discussed recruiting people to run the office. So we are actively working on that so that when the time comes, we're ready to open right up and go back into business. There was something else I had, but I have since forgotten the hour. Kathy's on. Kathy, do you want to update anything about the action plan or the bylaws? Okay.
Sorry, got to find that mute button.
There you are.
It takes a while to navigate. Nothing to add except that we were hoping to get it on our April agenda, but Andrew, I don't know if
Haley has not responded to my email yet. I'll bump her again today.
So it looks like it won't be on our April agenda, but it may be on our May agenda. What we're looking to do is make sure that we have a candidate, a Democratic candidate in every single office in the coming years. So that's, that's our push. And so if you know anybody who lives in St. Joseph County and they want to get active, tell them to get a hold of us because we're looking to run them for an office. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. So yeah, that's St. Joseph County. We're getting back to trying to get back to in person and doing the things we were doing before. So
Thank you. Any questions for Andrew or Kathy? I do see there's a question in the chat from Betty Pearman. Doesn't St. Joseph County GOP have 2 announced challengers to Fred? Kara
my
is one.
yes, I totally forgot about this. So there is a gentleman from a different, I don't think he is in St. Joseph County. Maybe he is in St. Joseph County. I did see somebody else announce that they were going to challenge Fred Upton, but yes, Steve Kara, forgive me, he is technically my representative, but I don't know how to pronounce his name still. Yes, no, this guy is gonna attempt to challenge Upton. I think he actually has a good chance of beating Upton. I know you guys have heard of this Steve guy, even outside of St. Joseph County. He's definitely attempting to create a scene, and he's definitely a super pro-Trumper. So just yesterday they held a vote, the state legislature did, to put a cap on insulin prices at $50 a month. Only 16 legislators voted no, and one of them was Steve Kara. And he gave an explanation on his Facebook that while he thinks the intentions were good, he does not believe in regulating private industries. So this is what we're dealing with Steve Kara. And he is also a very devout Trumper. So if he, there's that. So I think with that being said, he's running for Upton's office, which means he can't run for his own office again. So I guess he was just planning on being a one-term state representative. In the meantime, we need to come up with a candidate to run for that office, and I'm curious of who the Republican Party down here will put in that seat or that in that race. So.
Thank you, Andrew. Any further questions for Andrew before we continue? Okay, seeing none. Van Buren County, Annie.
Good morning. Great to see everyone. We are moving forward with a couple goals of, like many of you, increasing membership and raising money. We're planning to have a July event for fundraising, and we are being cautious about COVID, so we're waiting to see what we will be able to do safely in Van Buren County as far as a dinner or an outdoor event or something like that. We will keep you posted. And we met last week, and our guest speaker was Karen Kemp from Berrien County. And she is one of the regional leaders for the Michigan Rural Democratic Caucus. So that it was always great to hear about what the Rural Caucus is doing. And as you probably know by now, they are reorganizing and asking people to commit as a true member. So if you haven't signed up to be a member, please do that too. And Karen also had some great advice, and that is that Democrats become members of their county farm bureaus. So it's a good reminder that we should all sign up and be active members. Karen joined hers in Berrien County, and she's now part of the policy committee. So that shows how Democrats can get involved and work for Michigan agriculture. Oh, and Eleanor, you talked a little bit last month about billboards. And I found a great billboard, if we need it for anything, outside of the Four Winds Casino near Hartford. So it's when you come out of the parking lot, you are looking right at a billboard, and I have the phone number to contact them for advertising. So if you're ever if anyone's interested in that. And I think that is about all for us. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Annie before we continue?
I don't have
Annie?
a question per se, but Annie reminded me of something. But if you want me to hold off.
No, go ahead.
When she mentioned Karen Kemp, I was remiss in not mentioning the additional amazing work that Karen is doing here in Berrien County. She is opening a South County office. She's also the president of our South County Club. And I don't remember if I mentioned that last time. And so that's exciting. And she's doing great work down there as well.
Okay, cool. All right, that finishes our county reports. The next section in our agenda is the state party report. Siobhan is not with us today, and she's actually moving on from the MDP and will be doing other great things in her local area. Besides the leadership summit, I don't have anything to report from them. However, she did let me know right now from today until the 31st, and I'm not sure if they're going to renew these or not. There are phone banks, which you can do from anywhere. I posted the Allegan County link on our Facebook page yesterday, and I plan on posting the links for the other various counties going forward. But the Secretary of State is required to remove inactive voters from the voter roll. We can interact with people to remind them to contact the Secretary of State and ask that that not be done for their record. So they've set up phone banks, which you can participate in from home. It'll walk you through the process using your computer online, and you can contact these voters and make sure that they're not removed. It's a lawful practice. It kind of is not cool, but it's the law. So contacting these voters and making sure that they don't get removed from the rolls is super important. If you'd like more information about that, let me know. Like I said, the Allegan County one is posted on our Facebook page. County chairs, I can provide you the link to your various county. There isn't one for Kalamazoo because I don't know why, but our rural counties are super important. So it's good to make sure that these people aren't being removed from the voter rolls. And that's from now until the 31st, which is Wednesday? Tuesday. No, Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday.
Eleanor,
Melissa.
can I speak for a second? I'm
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hello, Corey. I see
Yeah.
you, Melissa. I'll get you after Corey.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Melissa. I am a Project 83 organizer for Kalamazoo and east of that. They haven't told me anything about a replacement for Siobhan yet. But in regards to the Project 83 voter removal phone bank, there is one for Kalamazoo. I set that up. I don't know the status of this. Last I heard from Mariah, there was some sort of problem with the list of Kalamazoo. I don't know what the problem was. They haven't told me anything about it. But there's one for Kalamazoo. And if you're interested in that, you can contact me. I do know in regards to Siobhan, I think her email will still be up for the next few weeks or a few days or so. So if you need to contact her about any loose ends or anything like that, I'm not sure if she'll be checking her email, but her email will still be active for a little while longer. And I just want to also add that I'm happy. I was glad to see some people here who were part of the leadership summit last week. I wish more people would have joined because there was a lot of good information that was shared with us last week in regards to how we can be successful for the next year in 2022. But I was happy to see Eleanor there and Annie there and a couple other people there last week. I think it was very useful summit that we had last week. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Corey. Melissa.
Okay, just to add to Corey, I was just going to say Siobhan also reminded us at our meeting the other night that we have a lot of resources at MDP. And if for everything that everybody has talked about this whole meeting, there is somebody there that you can contact for assistance in different things. And so you just go to michigandems.com, go to staff, and there's a listing of all the people that are there. So she said, we need to really take advantage of that because it's, our money at work. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah, and to expand on that, I have also signed up with VAN, so I've got access to VAN. If any of you are interested in working in the VAN, which is our voter information system, let me know and I can ask that you be added to our committee so that you have access to that. It'll be really important, especially once we get our committees formed and start doing, just voter identification in general for all of our upcoming elections. Rick, I see your hand.
Yeah, just briefly, real quick. So this is for Corey, I guess. I mentioned this during the leadership workshop or whatever last weekend, but is there any way that the MDP can update the website to reflect Eleanor as our new chair? I'm sure that Paul doesn't mind people calling him, maybe, but I did contact somebody, or I did mention it during the meetings last week, Corey, but I wonder if coming from you, that it might, we might be able to get that taken care of. Thank you.
I can certainly reach out to the people who run the website today and see about getting that done, because that is very important. I know last year, for most of last year, they still had Jake Andrews as the chair of the Kalamazoo County Democratic Party, and he was not chair last year for most of all last year. So it is something that really needs to be done when it comes to updating the website. So I will certainly reach out to them today to see about getting Eleanor's information and name updated as the chair of the 6th District.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Corey before we proceed? Okay, cool. So we are on to unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is to decide what we would like our meeting schedule to be going forward. So last cycle, during Paul's tenure as leader, we sort of settled on an alternating monthly schedule where the district committee, which is all of you, our general membership and our leadership officers, meet together on a bi-monthly basis. So we would meet every other month. And the other months we would have the executive committee meetings. And to note, this is a change in terminology, which we also made in the last cycle. Previously, we were referring to the entire district body as the executive committee. Now, the executive committee is the officers and our trustees. So that's just to clarify that the district committee is everyone and the executive committee is our leadership team. So if it's okay with you guys, we can keep the bi-monthly meetings at least until COVID is over. If we have a strong opinion either direction to have monthly meetings for the district committee and then figure out a cadence for the executive committee, I will open it to discussion.
I think it's a good idea to keep it the same way. Seems like it's been working.
Okay. And yeah, with the understanding, obviously, as things start normalizing and we're able to actually meet in person, the schedule may change once again. Mark, I see your hand.
I agree, but also I think we should have a standing, and we should state that now. If it's Saturday morning, which Saturday is it going to be? And then ideally have the executive committee and the district committee be on that same Saturday of each alternating month.
Awesome. I believe we were on the 3rd Saturday, just we had rescheduled. And obviously it does also depend, the MDP will schedule state central meetings and occasionally it corresponds to a day that we would have our district meetings. However, while those are being conducted virtually, they technically don't interfere with each other, but it does make for a very long day. So I would definitely say if we end up with a conflict with SCC, that we should probably reschedule at that point. So let me look at our calendar really quick.
I have a question real quick.
Yes, Rick.
And Eleanor, I'm going to ask you this. I didn't know how to do this. Would you like to be referred to as Madam Chair, Chairwoman? Do you have a preference? I don't want to, maybe that's silly, but I want to make sure I'm appropriate. So
I appreciate the concern. I honestly have no preference. You may refer to me however you wish. You may use my name, you may use my title, as long as it gets my attention and it's not mean. That's all that I care. Thank you.
So, right. So here's my question. So are you proposing that the CD6 will meet every other month and that the district committee, the executive committee would meet prior to the district committee meeting?
We had sort of done it 2 different ways. I believe for a short period of time, we were having monthly meetings, especially leading up to the election in 20, well, last year we were only meeting every other month, but 2018 we were meeting every month. And the executive committee, I believe, was meeting the weekend before. So that would work out if we wanted to have a district committee meeting every month. What we've been doing most recently was alternating. So same weekend, same, like the third Saturday of the month, it would just be 1 month would be the executive committee. So for example, we would not meet again until, this is March, the district committee as a whole would not meet again until May. And in the interim, our executive committee would meet in April. And of course, district committee members are welcome to attend executive committee meetings. It's just that the business is, executive committee related, and I don't believe that they're allowed to vote.
Perfect.
So that's the main difference.
Perfect. Do you need a motion to make that happen? Or can we just do that through discussion, just for procedure? Thank you.
Yeah, we will probably need a motion to figure out our cadence, but I'm open to continue discussion if there is any more. Though we do need to decide. Yes, Kathleen.
This is Kathleen. I just for reference, Naomi Ludman heads a food pantry operation in Dowagiac that always takes up the 4th. So just so you know that in terms of scheduling.
That is good to know. Thank you. Yeah, I believe that we had been doing the 3rd. It's just that we moved it because of the leadership. So I'm okay with the 3rd Saturday. So for reference, that would mean that the executive committee meets again on April 17th. That's next month. And then the month after that, the district committee would meet on May 15th. And then going forward in that same cadence. If that sounds good for everybody, I'll entertain a motion.
Sure, I'll make that motion. Madam Chair, I'll move that starting in April and then May, that the meetings will be with the executive committee in April, the district committee in May, and then those committees will meet the 3rd Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. following that same sequence moving forward, if that makes sense.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Rick Catherman and seconded by Mark Miller. Sorry, Amy, I saw you, but Mark spoke first. Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I have one more. I'm sorry, I've got one more.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, because I made the motion. Is there any, where would we publish those dates?
I can make sure that they're published on the calendar, which is available on our website.
Just want to make
that's
sure.
Also emailed out to people who subscribe to our calendar updates. And then, yeah, it would also be regularly communicated via our email list, thanks to our amazing corresponding secretary.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All of those in favor of the meeting schedule as motioned, please unmute yourself and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All of those opposed, please unmute yourself and say nay. Okay, cool. Thank you. The motion passes and our next meeting for the district committee will be on May 15th and the next meeting of our executive committee will be on April 17th. I look forward to seeing you there. All right. Next item on our unfinished business is yard signs. Jill is not here. However, I do see a note in the comments that she's pushing back the deadline for ordering to April 15th. I would like to support this effort with some money from the districts. I know that she was asking for support from the county parties to pay for these signs. And I was hoping that we could get a motion to expend some of our money to help with this initiative and just cover some of those costs. If possible, I would like a motion to pay $400 toward this effort to get signs for our county parties.
I'd like to address the issue. In Cass County, we're not going to participate in the effort, and the reason is that it's too hot down here. if we're going to put up congratulations or welcome or thank you, Governor, we're going to have to put up 1,000 Blue Lives Matter signs as well. Yeah, that's the temperature. So it just isn't. We would be causing a stir. So and we don't need to bring. We haven't cooled down enough to do that yet. So I don't know if other people are having that experience with law enforcement that just is, almost part of the Trump operation. But we are. So just as a commentary of what we feel, I don't think that we would be voting against putting our money into the purchase of signs. So I wouldn't vote against that.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any
Okay.
discussion? Amy, Rick, I think you unmuted first. Amy, I see you. You'll be
I'm
next.
sorry.
Can-
Amy, I
Can
apologize.
I make a motion first before we go into
Oh.
discussion?
That's a very good point. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
I'd like to move that we expend $400 towards yard signs through Jill Dunham.
I second.
Excellent. It's been moved and seconded by Andrew George and seconded by Annie Brown. Is there any discussion?
Yes, so that I'll jump in here real quick. So I was going to make that point too. But anyway, for Kathleen, who was just on, I guess my question is for you, and you're in Cass County, is that correct?
Correct.
What is your risk of putting those signs up? Do you feel like there would be people would take them down, or you said you're reading the temperature there. I'm just wondering what the risk is.
We've already had 2 of our workers charged with larceny for allegedly taking a sign down, and the prosecutor refuses to even discuss the issue. The signs, my governor is an idiot, are still up all over Cass County.
Right, so I would say my argument would be we need to put up those signs that say we support the governor. But I respect and appreciate what you're bringing to the table. I think it's important to bring to the conversation.
Kathleen, would it help mitigate that concern at all? Jill is also providing those generic, we believe signs, but she's modifying them to say Democrats believe, like science and water is life and women's rights or human rights and Black Lives Matter. Are those less inflammatory?
Well, they are. I can ask Naomi to bring it up at the next meeting that we have. It was, everyone felt very similarly about letting things rest a bit before we do this. Of course, we could order them and put them up 2 months from now. I mean, that's another possibility. So, yeah, we'll revisit.
Okay. Yeah, I know that she had a couple of different options, and I can totally understand why the Whitmer signs could be risky. And we don't want to ask anybody to do something that they're not comfortable with or spend money on something that they don't feel will be valuable. So yeah, awesome. Okay. Is there any discussion? Amy, sorry, thank you.
Just really quick, when we brought it up or attempted to bring it up for a vote at our last meeting to expend this money to purchase the signs, we actually had a very generous member offered to donate the money to cover the signs. So we in Berrien County do not need additional help of the $400, just so you know. It can go to the other counties. Thanks.
Cool. I think it would just go into the general pool and maybe not be specifically allocated, but I don't know. I think it's up to Jill. I'd just like to make sure that the signs are able to be purchased and distributed as we see fit. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Mark?
Just a technical point on our treasury. If we haven't actually made the switch to our new treasurer for the accounts yet, we won't be able to write that check until we do. Or else we'll have to have, I don't think Paul was actually the treasurer. I don't know if he got control of the accounts though. We had a little glitch in the previous handover.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if we need to have a delay, it's nice that the deadline has been pushed back to April. Ken, do you see any serious barriers to everything being sort of settled by April 15th? Or is that just too up in the air at the moment?
No, I think for me, it's not. My schedule opens up. It's just me getting the appropriate people at the table. And Mark stated a good point there. I think it's more than just getting me and Paul together, honestly.
Okay. Well, keep me up to date. Worst case scenario, we can always have someone pay and then reimburse them, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, with that understanding, is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none. The motion on the table is to spend $400, and this would be from our PAC account or from our admin account? I guess that's important.
I can restate my motion, but I need guidance.
Yeah, I'm not sure which applies. It's probably, because it's being done by the committee, the Allegan County Committee, it's probably from the PAC account.
I think it is.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I believe we've got to have a federally compliant account of some kind. So we need to be able to FEC report it, which is probably going to be our PAC.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent. Okay, so this money would be coming
my
from our PAC
motion.
account.
It's from the PAC.
Cool. All right, so the motion on the table, thank you for the friendly amendment, Andrew. The motion on the table is to expend $400 from our PAC account toward the sign purchase through Jill Dunham in Allegan County. Everyone in favor, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 All those opposed, please unmute yourself and say nay. Excellent, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. We are now on to new business. So in our bylaws, we have 5 committees that we need to form. However, figuring out how to do this on a Zoom call is going to be somewhat technically difficult. We have 5 committees, candidates and campaigns, communications, finance and fundraising, outreach, and rules and bylaws. At previous meetings, we normally would just break up and figure out who wants to be involved in which. That may not be technically feasible with the Zoom meeting at the moment. However, I would like to at least get basic interest in these in these committees at this meeting if possible, and then offline we can have those people communicate with each other and try and organize our committees and report back at our meeting in May. So basic understanding of what these committees are. Candidates and campaigns is finding candidates and recruiting people for all the positions in our various counties, and especially our congressional campaign against Fred Upton in 2022. Communications has traditionally been working with press, local agencies, getting information from local organizations, and also providing information to local organizations. It's similar to outreach, but it's more direct toward like letters to the editor or things of that nature. Finance and fundraising obviously is raising money, making, getting events for fundraising. Like, so if we wanted to have a dinner or a fundraising event, they would be responsible for planning that, organizing that, making sure that we have enough money to run the organization to support our candidates across the board. Outreach is both communications, but mainly working with local organizations to expand the scope of like democratic awareness in our area. So like working with our local unions, working with local organizations that could be interested in working with our democratic organizations, both at the county level and the district level. And then rules and bylaws is rules and bylaws. So if we need to modify, update, or change our bylaws, if we're accepting a resolution and we're not sure, you know, if it meets criteria, we can send that to the Rules and Bylaws Committee for review, and then they can bring it back to us for a report. So basically anything parliamentary that we need to do with our rules and bylaws. So these committees are codified in our bylaws, so we kind of have to have them. How should we proceed?
Madam Chair, Ludwig here. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I would move that we empower yourself to make committee chair appointments and assignments based on, and I'll stop the motion there. If I could comment briefly, I think this would be an expedient way to just get this up and going. I would suggest that if we open self-nominations via email at this point, you might get enough people to fill out your leadership roles at least. I would suggest maybe some proactive effort on your part to nudge people to take these roles might be in order at this time too. You know, as has been pointed out, we're going to have this truncated election season. You know, we really need to make sure we stand up our CDs as quickly as possible to kind of fill in the gap, if you will, for enthusiasm and organizing. I'll stop there.
Absolutely, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the table to empower myself to appoint heads of these committees, and then those heads can work together with me to figure out membership. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, cool. So the motion was created by Mark Ludwig and seconded by Mark Miller. Is there any further discussion?
Question, so I have to assume that the bylaws allow you to do that?
Let me
Our
check.
bylaws allow, right, Mark, this is, I guess is a question, because I would imagine that Mark wouldn't have made that motion if it if it were in violation of our bylaws, that it allows the chair to make those appointments. It's just a point of order, I guess. Just before because I was ready to second it, but I didn't want to second it if we would be in violation of our own bylaws, so.
We already have our first item. We got to send the rules and bylaws, guys.
No. I'm not saying that. I just don't have I have the MDP rules and bylaws up in front of me, and I guess we could look through it, or maybe that's a question to consider at our April 17th meeting of the executive committee, but because I'm all in support of that. The other thing that I was going to mention, Madam Chair, is that possibly, if you do have that authority to appoint those chairs, that we work with our county chairs to recruit people to be part of those committees.
That's a very good point.
If I can read from the bylaws, the duties of the chair include point C, shall appoint members to standing and ad hoc committees, giving consideration to broad representation from the counties in the district, with confirmation by a majority of the district committee. So as written in our bylaws, it envisions this process as you make the appointments and then they're confirmed by the district committee.
Thank you for the clarification, Mark.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you
Madam
very
Chair
much.
Ludwig here, it being superfluous, I will withdraw the motion.
Thank you. That's cool. Okay, so I already have that ability, which is awesome. However, I would like to appoint people who have an interest in serving on these committees. So I'll just go down the list. If anyone in this meeting would like to be the chair of candidates and campaigns, please identify yourself at this time. Okay, I will work on that. If anyone would like to be the chair of the communications committee, please identify yourself. Mike, I see you. Yeah, you've done an amazing job with communications, and I would be honored to have you as the chair of the communications committee. All right, finance and fundraising. Anyone on the call interested in being the chair of a finance and fundraising committee? Okay, I don't see anyone there. Outreach, so reaching out to local organizations and unions to interact and positively get the democratic message out there. Anyone interested in being an outreach campaign committee chair? Okay, I don't see anybody there. Rules and bylaws. Mark Miller, I see you.
I've done it for a long time and I'm willing to continue.
Excellent, and we appreciate all the work that you've done. Okay, so we have.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would, going back up to the first committee, campaigns and elections, I'd be willing to work with you in that capacity if you're looking, maybe a further conversation at our meeting on April 17th, but.
Sure, that works for me. So do you want to be the chair of that committee, or should we discuss that at our next meeting?
Let's discuss it at the next meeting, but I'm leaning that way.
Okay, cool, no worries. Then I will not ask for your nomination. Okay, so we have 2 positive nominations and I'll have to work on the other 3. So I would accept a motion that we accept the communications and rules and bylaws committee chair's as stated.
Andrew George, so move.
Second.
Thank you. It has been properly moved and seconded by Andrew George and Amy Screamo that Mike Sines will be our communications chair and Mark Miller will be our rules and bylaws chair. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of these nominations, please unmute yourself and say aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, please unmute yourself and say nay. Awesome, motion carries. So congratulations to Mike and to Mark. You are our communications and rules and bylaws chairs respectively. Mark, you've already discussed the redistricting report, which I had here in new business. Is there anyone else who would like to talk about redistricting in general at this time? Seeing no one. All right, so
Just a quick reminder to make sure
Sure.
that your county chair is participating in our more Republican counties. They may be the only Democrat authorized to be on that redistricting for your county commission chairs.
Andrew George again. Complete honesty, I'm a little out of the loop on that too. So if there's somebody on this call that I could talk to more about the redistricting, that'd be nice, because St. Joseph County is by far a Republican county.
Madam Chair, I have some resources in that that I've gotten from Mark Brewer, and I'd be happy to share.
okay. Yeah, if you want to email those to me, I can include them on the website and as well in the meeting wrap up. Corey, I see your hand.
Yes, my question is directed to Andrew's comment. Has he contacted anybody at the MDP about finding out more information about the role of a county party chair in regards to the redistricting of the, I believe this was, I'm interpreting his comment as the role of a county party chair in the redistricting of the county commission seats in each county.
That is correct. Who's my contact for the MVP for that?
That was Siobhan. But I can see about reaching out to someone at the MDP to reach out to you in regards to getting you information about, we had a training maybe about a month or two ago that was in regards to addressing the issue of having county party chairs be involved in the redistricting process, primarily for county party chairs in districts where it is heavily Republican in their county-wide seats, which is prosecutor, clerk, and treasurer. And so I will say, this is for everybody on the call who is a county party chair in a predominantly red county, that they are recommending that you do draw a map. It will likely be rejected because, majority rules, but at the very least, you draw up a map and submit it. And that if the Republicans do heavily gerrymander the districts, that you can file a lawsuit. Of course, that would likely be unsuccessful, but at the very least, you are trying to make things fair in your county, and you are trying to represent all the people in your county, especially the Democrats in your county. So yeah, I will see if I can reach out to the persons who were involved in that training to reach out to you to see about how they can connect with you in regards to helping you with getting information about drawing the districts and being a part of that committee that will help draw the county commission districts in your county.
Please do. Thank you, Corey.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you, Corey. Kathleen, I see your hand.
Yes, Andrew, I'd strongly recommend you talk with Naomi Ludman, chair at Cass County. Our recommendations and the way we're moving is to hopefully exit St. Joe County in redistricting. So I think if you haven't been invited, has your group met? You don't know. I have a feeling.
I have not been invited to any redistricting, anything.
Yeah. My guess is that it wouldn't hurt you to call and talk with Naomi just about what Cass is looking at.
Okay, will do. Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you, Kathleen. Melissa, I see your hand.
Okay, so at the summit last week, the people that did the redistricting presentation were Nick Barnes, who is the MDP employee, Barnes, and Mike Vatter, V as in victory, Atter. So they're the ones that you can contact at MDP.
Thank you.
Cool. Is there any further discussion about redistricting before we continue?
I'll just add to what Melissa just said. I will connect you, Andrew, or at least I'll tell you that Nick Barnes' email is on the MDP's website. So, but I'll see about connecting you two as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That does bring up the point, however, given the importance of this, did we want to also have a redistricting committee within our district, or did we want to more support the local redistricting committees from our counties? Yeah, I don't know. I'm of the opinion that I think just providing resources and a meeting place where all of our local county parties can meet together and trade ideas for their redistricting committees is probably more useful. So if there's anything that I can do, county chairs, to assist you with that, please contact me and let me know.
I think you're right, Eleanor.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, so we have our amended agenda item. Rick Catherman added the discussion of the proposed rule change to the MDP. This is going to be brought up before the SCC at their next meeting. The rule change is to allow the constituency caucuses, so like the Progressive Caucus, the Jewish Caucus, the Women's Caucus, the Black Caucus, they would have a representative on the executive committee at SCC, at State Central, because currently the constituency caucuses do not have any representation on SCC unless one of their members happens to be an SCC delegate or alternate. So Rick, I'll let you take this discussion since you brought it up.
Sure. So exactly, and you put it forth out there rather than reading the whole resolution, but I was a little conflicted when I first got this, and I've been back and forth, so I'm interested. I know we have other members of State Central here. That my question was, and I put it to Haley, and I apologize to you, Eleanor, in advance, that I maybe should have reached out to you, but I'm not sure, is there an application process to become an officially recognized caucus of the MDP? I've read through the rules a little bit, and I think a caucus is referred to as a unit within the MDP, and all of them that I could find so far have to have an established bylaws and all of that sort of thing, right? And so part of my question was, how does one become a caucus? Because if we were to adopt this as a new rule, are we going to see a lot more caucuses? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but that was one question that I had, is how do you become an officially recognized caucus? And then the other part was, would this may actually lead to, if caucuses have representation at the executive committee, it might help to streamline some of the State Central committee meetings. I didn't think about that at first, but now that I'm thinking through this, because if those caucuses have a voice at the executive committee, that maybe some of their concerns will be worked out before a State Central committee meeting. Because having served on State Central the last several years, I felt like some caucuses were, and I'm going to just say this, were more concerned with causing issues than with collaborating and coming together to vote and elect Democrats. Coming from Washtenaw County, where I served before, the Progressive Caucus, I don't mean to offend anyone, but very strong voice in what was going on, especially at the Washtenaw County level and those sorts of things. And so I just wanted to share those thoughts because I've been a little conflicted about this. And so I don't know if you have, Eleanor, or anyone has any information about how one becomes an officially recognized caucus of the MDP. I reached out to Haley, and her response was, "What, do you want to start a caucus?" And I thought, well, maybe I do. I don't know, right? But I haven't had an opportunity. I know she's very, very busy as well. But does anyone know what it takes to become an officially recognized caucus?
Madam Chair, hey, thank you. I'm one of the founding members of the Rural Caucus. which was 6 years ago now. So I can't say it's like super fresh in my mind, but it was not, it was possible, but it wasn't easy. You know, it's like many of the other things we do, there's a lot of paperwork. You got to find a group of people. I do not, for example, envision like 100 new caucuses being suddenly springing up in order to throw to somehow capture a new majority of the state central committee. I think this does make some sense to bring kind of directly bring the constituency caucuses into the state central committee rather than, kind of getting their information hit and miss from those people who happen to be both SCC members and constituency caucus active people. And I also do not see it really throwing off the balance of power at this time, despite a fairly vigorous effort from the progressive forces. The establishment, if you will, maintains a strong majority on the state central committee. Further discussion on that might be warranted today, but it wouldn't be directly about this issue.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Mark Beller.
I actually had some of the same concerns that Rick just spoke to. I'm generally in favor of this proposal. I think it will broaden the representation. To be clear, we're talking about the executive committee, not state central. So this would be adding members for each constituency caucus. So I'm a member of the Justice Caucus. Justice Caucus would then have one seat in the executive committee, which is a smaller group. It is about 100 people, I think, more or less, which is fewer than are on state central. I appreciate Mark Ludwig's discussion about how it came about to make a new caucus. That's not in the rules of the MDP. And when we did our rules review, I came across a number of holes where there are processes that take place, and yet they are not addressed in our rules. And we did a lot of work in that rules review and added things, but that's not one of the things we got to. So there are also, I'll just call them traditions, where there's processes in some notebook somewhere in headquarters, and those things get worked out, and as long as nobody challenges them, that's the way it goes. I don't see a whole lot of danger here that we're going to get, as Mark says, 100 new caucuses just to have a seat on the, but maybe that's something that needs to be taken up. This, if it is passed at State Central, will need to be referred to the Rules Committee and then come back. So it's not going to happen in one meeting. So maybe that would be the time for the Rules Committee to take a look at the whole process of becoming a caucus into the rules in the first place.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I'm very surprised to hear that the process is not in the MDP bylaws, because I know for a fact, I was a member of the Progressive Caucus for 4 years, and we rewrote our bylaws to include that explicitly. Like, if you wanted to create a chapter of our caucus locally, you had to go through certain procedures. You had to have your own version of the bylaws that had to be in correspondence with the caucus's bylaws in addition to the MDP rules. And then you also had to have a certain amount of meetings in a certain amount of time with a certain amount of people, just basically to show general interest. And that was codified in their bylaws that we rewrote. I'm really surprised to hear that the MDP doesn't have that. That's really interesting. And then another thing, so I believe that this was initially brought to the table because of the Anishinaabe caucus, which is one of our newer caucuses.
Yes.
There is no Native representation on SCC at all, which is kind of a travesty. So this would ensure, at the very least, that our new small caucuses, especially our rural caucus, which given the general makeup of Michigan itself, is huge, has a voice. Kathleen.
I'm a member of the Anishinaabe Caucus, and they have a primary concern about being represented on the State Central Committee. In fact, they tended to try to merge with one of the progressive caucuses. It's not the progressive, but it's a new one, just so that they would have a voice at the table. And I don't know that that was particularly very successful. But yes, the Anishinaabe Caucus has done wonders in the state at this point in time. It's gotten national advertising. And so my sense of it is that's the primary one that really needs to be at the table.
Melissa, I see your hand.
Back to Mark Miller, if I may. So we talked about, okay, the difference between the State Central Committee and the Executive Committee. So those are two separate groups. And so when you say that, you know, we want representation on State Central, that's a different issue than wanting representation on the Executive Committee, correct? Okay, so I just want to make sure, I mean, but is the Executive Committee by default then part of State Central? They are they not? Does
Yes.
it work kind of that way? Go ahead.
Anyone who is appointed to the Executive Committee is then a member at large of the State Central Committee, but not vice versa.
Correct. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure we clarify that, because that is a difference in, you know, you by default, you get to be part of State Central, but you know, it's not right. Okay. Thank you.
And Mark, members at large can vote at State Central just like normal members, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing to note, at the very first meeting of every State Central session, the chair has the right at any time, but it's often the first meeting, to appoint as many people at large to the Executive Committee as the chair wishes. And this has been a big point of argument from several of the caucuses previously, that what's the point of electing delegates and alternates if the chair is going to just elect, well, appoint, not elect, just appoint random people to the Executive Committee at their will. So I think that if there is a concern that somehow the caucuses are going to overrun the Executive Committee, the chair still has the right by the rules to appoint as many other people to the Executive Committee as they choose. So there is that. Okay, so this was really only a discussion.
So really, yeah, well, real quick, Ellen, if I could. So is there, because there seems to be confusion even in the 6th Congressional District about what it is to become or how you become a recognized caucus. Is that something that maybe you could address with either the chair of the party or with someone ahead of time? Because that'll be a question. That's a question I'm going to ask at State Central on April 10th as well. And it happens before our Executive Committee on the 17th. But that was a question, or maybe, I mean, I'm more than happy to move the question forward, but maybe coming from you as the new chair, or through Corey on the call today or on the meeting today to move that forward. Because if Mark is more veteran than I am on the to this, that if there's still confusion, maybe that's the way to go. But anyway, thank you. I do appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. It might be worth, because obviously there's going to be a motion at SEC. There will be discussion after that motion. But like Mark said, it's going to have to go to the Rules Committee. So regardless of if it passes or fails, more likely the motion is going to be sending it to the Rules Committee, not adopting it. It would be worth asking in that discussion, you know, what is the identified process to become a caucus, and perhaps have that included in an additional, I don't know, directive to the Rules Committee, like add that process to our bylaws so that it's clear. I don't know. That would be a discussion for that motion at SEC though. So definitely bring that up.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not against, I'm all for representation. Just making sure that the process is there so that everybody has an equal opportunity, I guess, if that makes sense, to voice that. So thank you again.
Absolutely, and I totally agree. Okay, so there wasn't really an action item on that. It was just more of a discussion. Is there any new business before we move on to good and welfare and announcements? I love seeing everyone's cats. This is amazing. All right, seeing no additional business, announcements, good and welfare. Does anyone have any announcements?
I'll have a quick announcement. The website has been updated. MDP's website has been updated with the information on there. So you're already on there listed as a 6th district chair.
Thank you. That's really exciting. Yeah, the only other announcement I have is if you're interested in participating in those voter notification phone banks, like I said, the Allegan one was posted on our Facebook page. I will have scheduled the other links to be posted throughout the rest of today. But if you are interested in a specific county, Corey, like I said, I don't have the link for Kalamazoo. So if you are interested in participating in the Kalamazoo one, if the list has been fixed, contact Corey. Otherwise, I have got the other links and can send them your way. But that's very important that we make sure that people don't get pulled off the voter rolls. Any other announcements? All right, well, it's noon, and I think that this has been an extremely productive meeting, so I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Eleanor.
And we'll see you if you're on the executive committee in April, and we'll see everyone else in May. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.